Yeah, I think they've become very confident at playing out of the back. Early in the season, we felt we could put them under a lot of pressure and turn over balls, and obviously the 7-0 game everything went our way. I think in the second game you saw that they were a lot more confident playing out of the back, but also defensively I think they made a big point of being a stronger defensive team, making it more physical for us. However, going into Sunday, I think playing on a bigger field, they won't be able to be as defensive. They won't be able to cover as much ground as they did in the small field in Yankee Stadium, so we'll look to exploit them that way. But looking forward to a very good match, a very high-level match, I think.
It's going to be hot out there. They're an older team than you guys, and given your emphasis and focus on being a fit team, do you think you can run this team into the ground that maybe by the 70th minute or so that might have an impact?
I hope so. I think that that's all going to come down to how good we are on the ball and how much we can make them run without the ball. Obviously, the more possession we have, the more chances we can string 10, 20 passes together to make them have to chase the game that will wear them down eventually, that hopefully in the later stages of the game we can power through. Goals will change the game definitely, like they always do, so we'll see how the game goes. But yeah, we feel like we can try to control the game.
Obviously, games against NYCFC have a little more something to them, but going into this game, after the way they celebrated after the last game and how David Villa posted that picture, is there anything a little more going into this one this time around?
For me, those are underlying things. I think the biggest thing for us is they're in first place and we're not, and so we're points behind them, and this is a big swing for us. If they win this game, they get out of reach for the moment, for the time being, and with the win for us, we get right on their heels and we start putting them under pressure. So that's the most important thing. Yeah, of course we're going to think about how excited they were to finally beat us the first time, and now that we're playing at home, we've got to be a good home team. We've got to continue to take our maximum points at home and things like that. There are a ton of issues at hand going into Sunday. The most important will be the standings.
Lampard has 3 consecutive goals going into this game, and Jack Harrison has been on a nice stretch. How do you stop the combination of those two on Sunday?
Yeah, they seem to work pretty well together too. Jack Harrison has been fantastic. I think since he got into the team, he's shown to be a very dynamic young player who's made a difference in that team. And you can't deny that Frank Lampard has found himself again, found his goal-scoring ways, being in the box and being dangerous. So I think every time we've played against Lampard, we've always said that, especially when the ball gets wide, he makes those late runs in the box and seems to clean up things. So that's on us midfielders to be prepared for him to make those runs into the box and just try not to let him have any open shots.
You were a part of some pretty big rivalries in Belgium. This may not be as big as the Seton Hall-Rutgers rivalry, but how does this compare to some of the pieces that you've been through and the feeling, and is it building, do you think, to close to that level?
Yeah, it's building. We had these big games with Standard Liège at Anderlecht that were marred by violence. And so violence from the fans, violence between the teams, guys with their, a guy got his leg was just snapped in half, and it became, it wasn't soccer anymore. And so that just became crazy in itself. Every time there was a game, it was a big battle. We haven't got there yet, and I hope it never gets there between us and NYCFC, and it stays about the soccer. And so far it has been, because there have been very good games. The 7-0 game, it was very lopsided, but that's something that people are going to talk about for a long time. And then they came back and they kicked our butts the second time. And so it has been about the soccer, and the soccer has been good. And I think they've, for the most part, been pretty high-level games and pretty entertaining for the common fan, for the people watching on TV and things like that. So that's great for the league. The one thing I always come back to is that these rivalry games always mean a lot to the fans. They mean so much to the fans. It's bragging rights for the rest of the year. Every time I spoke to fans at Anderlecht, they'd always be like, "We're going for the title this year, but when we play Club Brugge and we play Standard Liège, you make sure you don't lose to them." And so I get that feeling, and I remember the great story I have is after we won in NYC for the first time last year, I came back on the bus to our stadium to get my car, and our supporters' bus had just pulled into the lot also, and they got off the bus and they just came over and were just like, "You don't know how much this means to us." And I'm like, "Trust me, I do. I get it. I know how much it means, so I want to give our fans another win on Sunday."